Have you ever noticed that the older you get, the more impatient you become? When you're a kid, it takes forever for Christmas to come. Summer vacation is forever away. Your birthday never gets closer. Then you become an adult, and suddenly you're standing in line at Walmart thinking, if this cashier scans another item this slowly, I may become the villain in someone else's story. We don't like waiting. We want answers now. We want results now. We want life to come on our schedule. Welcome back to Myths and Mayhem, the show where gods create problems, kings make them worse, and heroes discover their limits, because buried beneath every ancient myth is a very modern human truth. This week we watched Heracles take on one of the strangest laborers of all. Not a monster, not an army, not an impossible fight, just a deer. A deer so fast he couldn't catch it. A deer so sacred he couldn't hurt it. For an entire year, Heracles had to chase something that he wasn't allowed to force. And I don't think that this labor was actually about a deer. I think it was about patience. Every other labor rewarded action. Swing harder, think smarter, fight longer. But this one, every shortcut would fail. If Heracles had rushed, he would have lost. If he had forced the outcome, he would have failed the labor. The only way to succeed was to trust the process. And I think that's one of the hardest lessons in life that we ever learn. Because we don't just struggle with waiting. We struggle with waiting when we don't know why we're waiting. I've always struggled with patience. Not because I don't like waiting, but because I like plans. I like knowing what's next. I like checking boxes and moving forward. One of the biggest lessons that I've learned about patience happened right after I got home from my mission. Growing up in my faith, I've always been taught that if I stayed close to God, I kept His commandments, one day I'd find the woman I was meant to marry. So I did my best to serve my mission, I stayed faithful, I tried to become the man that I believed God wanted me to become. But month after month, nothing happened. Then one evening on my drive to work, my patience finally broke. My commute was about 45 minutes long. And for that entire drive, I prayed, and not the kind of prayer where you say a few words and you move on. The kind where you're having an honest conversation. I remember telling God, I've done everything that you've asked me to do. I served a mission. I've tried to be faithful. I've become the man I think that you want me to become. You made me promises, Lord. I've kept my side. I've been doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing. So what am I missing? It wasn't an angry prayer. It was an honest one. Because from where I was sitting behind that steering wheel, it felt like my life had been put on pause. What I couldn't see was that while I was asking God why He wasn't answering my prayer, He was already arranging the answer. That exact same time, the woman who would become my wife was serving her own mission. And she had reached a decision point, whether she should extend her mission for an extra 6 weeks or whether or not she should go home early. If she had extended, our paths would have never crossed again. We would have missed each other completely. Instead, she felt impressed that it was time that she needed to go home. Neither one of us knew what God was doing. Neither one of us knew that our stories were quietly moving toward each other. Years later, I realized something that never would have made sense on that 45-minute drive. I thought I was waiting on God. In reality, God was waiting on both of us. Patience isn't believing that nothing is happening. For me, patience became trusting that God was working on parts of my story that I couldn't see yet. Whether you call it God's timing, fate, providence, or simply life unfolding in ways that we can't yet understand, I think all of us eventually discover that same truth. We're rarely able to see the whole picture while we're living it. So maybe you're in a season of waiting. Maybe you're praying for healing, for a job, for a relationship, for a child, for direction, or maybe you're praying for something so personal that you've stopped telling other people about it because you're tired of hearing, just be patient. I know how frustrating that can feel, because when you are the one doing the waiting, patience doesn't feel inspiring. It feels lonely. But what if, just like Heracles, the waiting isn't the obstacle? What if it's the lesson? Heracles couldn't rush the Golden Hind, because the moment that he tried to force the outcome, he would have lost everything. Sometimes we do the same thing. We try to force doors open. We try to speed up life's timeline. For me, that meant trying to rush God's timing. For you, it might simply mean trying to force an answer before all the pieces are in place. Either way, we spend an awful lot of energy trying to control things that were never in our control to begin with. If you're the one waiting and you're a person of faith like I am, don't assume that because you can't see God working, that He isn't. And if faith isn't part of your story, don't assume that just because you can't see the purpose today, there isn't one. Some of life's biggest moments only make sense when we look back. And if you're standing beside someone who's in that season, don't try to fix their waiting. Just remind them that they haven't been forgotten. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give someone is hope that their story isn't finished yet. I don't think that the Greeks told the story of the Golden Hind because they wanted us to admire a man who spent a year chasing a deer. I think they told it because every generation has to learn the same lesson. Not everything valuable can be rushed. Some victories can't be won with strength. Some prayers can't be answered on our schedule. Some doors don't open until every piece of the story is finally in place. Heracles caught the hind, not because he was the strongest man alive, but because he stayed faithful to the task even when it took longer than he wanted. Looking back, I'm grateful that God didn't answer my prayer on my timeline. If He had, I would have missed the woman who has become one of the greatest blessings in my life. I believe God was writing a story that neither one of us could see. Now, you might not believe in God, and it's okay. But I think that we've all experienced moments where life only made sense in hindsight. The job we wanted, we didn't get. A relationship that we were in didn't work out. A door that stayed closed. A delay that frustrated us, only to realize later that it led us somewhere that we never could have planned. Maybe that's one of the reasons this myth survived for thousands of years. Whether you see the author of your story as God, faith, or simply an unexpected twist of life, the Golden Hind reminds us that not every delay is a dead end. Thanks for letting me give you those thoughts. We will see you in the next adventure. Until then, stay curious, stay legendary, and remember, if you're chasing your own Golden Hind, don't mistake God's silence or life's delays for the end of the story. Sometimes the next chapter is already being written. You just haven't turned the page yet. See you next time. And if you're enjoying Myths and Mayhem, hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any future episodes.